Welcome back to Beyond the Trees, a podcast presented by Cedarwood Financial Partners. I'm the COO, Alex Murphy. Next to me is our chairman, Todd Vincent, and our CFO, David Boothby. We're without our fourth, Dylan Ripley, today. Part of our core values is family, and he has a sick kid, so we totally understand him not being here.
Yep.
Speaking of family, I got a funny way to start today. So I missed drop-off this morning, which is one of my things for our 5-year-old. And so our 3-year-old got to go along for the drop-off. And so I've realized that I can set my expectations a little bit lower on a daily basis based off what she said to our 5-year-old. She said, "Hey, have a great day. Try not to have an accident in your pants." I figure if I can achieve that every day, I'm like, okay, I can feel good.
It's the little things.
It's the little things. So today we're going to talk about maintaining company culture virtually. For anyone out there who doesn't know, we have teams in New York currently and teams in Texas spread out, not all in one office in either place. And so there's been some opportunities for us to learn over the last couple of years. How do we do this well? So how easy do you guys think it's been so far?
I think anything virtually, everybody's learning to do virtual meetings a lot, better than they were 10 years ago, right? Because of everything happened in the last 5 years. So I think people are kind of catching on and it's becoming part of life. For us, I think it's been, I wouldn't say easy, but I think we've met the challenge and have done well with it. I think we've over-communicated to make sure those that are kind of in that virtual state kind of know where we're headed as a company and as a virtual world happens around us.
I think one of the things we did well recently when we say virtual, that doesn't necessarily mean we're on a Teams call and looking at everybody. So when we had our company golf tournament, set the parameters, set a day, everybody went, played golf, and then we just reported our scores back. That was literally like a virtual golf tournament. We just all weren't at the same course, but everybody participated, and there was a lot of ribbing going on, just like you would if you were live at a golf course. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Came down to the last hole too.
That's right. It was a good time.
Yeah, I think just on that topic in particular, it just took a little preparation, making sure there was courses that were equal in different places, and then what's the fairest way to do it when it can't be exactly the same. And just a little bit of extra effort and preparation made it an awesome event and tied everyone together a little bit. Before 2020, even I guess in the last few years, would you guys say you were face-to-face people and prefer to meet face-to-face? Probably still prefer it, but do you feel like that is against your nature to be virtual in general?
I don't know if I'd say against my nature. It's a lot easier now than it was before 2020, obviously. But I don't know, prefer talking to people face-to-face or even at the very least seeing them on a Teams call or on a computer screen. I think it's something that we are getting more used to every day. But yes, I do like face-to-face, but there's technology that's taken the place of that. And I think we as Cedarwood do a good job of not making everybody turn their camera on when we are on Teams meeting. It's just kind of a given. I mean, we're showing up to a meeting and we have our camera on. See what each other are is doing, looking at each other in the eyes. I think that's important.
Yeah. I think sometimes, we don't realize how easy it is to feel like you're right in the presence of somebody, even though it might not be live. Like I can think of like FaceTiming my wife or my kids or anybody. You just feel like you're a little closer. You get to see their facial expressions. And with your comment about, on our Teams meetings, everyone's got their camera on. It is becoming a little bit more like, hey, we're all in the same room together. Mm-hmm. Have fun, joke, even, do stuff with your clothes or your background to facilitate, hey, we're all having fun here, just like we would if we were together. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think coming from a world where when I started my career, I was going out and meeting people face to face, right? Like that's how I didn't cold call people. I went and met them. And so 2020 hit and I had to turn to LinkedIn and other avenues, tried cold calling, tried all these different things. And then all of a sudden I started getting referrals that were out of state. And so over time, you just develop these things where you say, okay, my skills have to change. It can't be just I see someone in person and have these meetings in my office. It's that I have to be able to have a personality, relate to people, connect, even if it's via camera. And so some of those skills I think have transitioned as we built the firm to say, how do we still want people to feel like they know us and that we know them. And how do we do that? Well, a lot of it is we've used Teams really well.
Mm-hmm.
People have been diligent about turning their cameras on, about being present. I think that's made a big difference.
Yeah. I think our CSSs have done an extremely good job of building community and culture too via the teams, with them as an example, scheduling like a happy hour, a social happy hour. They put some thought into it. It's like, okay, well, let's all have margaritas if you want one. Of course, it's after hours, but let's have margaritas and let's answer these questions so that they get to know each other. It would be the same as, hey, let's just meet somewhere after work. And so I think, being diligent, setting the time aside, being creative virtually, it can feel in a lot of ways just like we're together.
Yeah, absolutely. And to dig in a little bit more on those, just for anyone listening, our staff do 3 meetings a month. So one is a one-on-one with our director of client service, where they work on their skill set, they work on their development, they have questions if they're coming across things they're struggling with, and they connect one-on-one. The second one is they'll do something fun like a happy hour, or I believe they did some sort of meditation one month. And then the third one is they get together and they work on best practices. How do we get better? How do we improve? And I think it's given them all a sense of community, an area where they can develop and improve skills, but also they have those personal connections, which has been very neat to see.
Mm-hmm.
They've been intentional, and it's great. We could probably, so let's go through some of the things that we do throughout the year, because I think overall that's what people are trying to do virtually. How do you have a golf event? What else are we doing?
Yeah, so I know that we talked about creating like a football pool, so some of those items like that are on the table where we all don't have to be in the same room. We can create these events virtually, track each other's score, etc. So I think some of that type of stuff is, you got to be intentional, you got to plan it, but once you kind of have those two together, then it kind of flows and you get a lot of participation.
The other thing we do is we have what we call like a day of immersion, where that's once a month. And the idea there is just like the CSSs get together to talk about best practices. This is more of a business-oriented day. Might have a guest speaker, a wholesaler, an attorney. We've had those, different topics that are kind of hot buttons. Everybody can submit some things that they would like to talk about, and it's basically setting 3 hours aside of kind of a formal yet informal meeting, just to focus on business building ideas.
Yeah, those are great, and it is nice that we can bring outside resources in, really build it into whatever we want. So we've got the Days of Immersion, the business building monthly. We've got the State of the Firm quarterly, where we bring everyone in the firm in, update them on all the financials, all the projects we're working on, keep everyone tied in there. We've got the football pick'em. We had the Cedarwood Open, our golf event. We have proposed a dove hunt, but unfortunately this year it looks like schedules aren't going to match up perfectly to be able to do it, but hopefully down the road. We'll have our national conference within Commonwealth, where we'll get to see each other in person. So we have a couple events a year where we're trying to see each other in person still, and we have at least something monthly where we're seeing all the partners monthly and everybody quarterly, which is, I think, been nice from a cultural standpoint.
Yeah. Two other things to remember that we've added in the culture. So we just brought on a new team into Cedarwood, and so once again, they aren't located in Texas. They're up in Wellsville, New York. So the local people had already got a chance to invite them over to their offices to get to know them at more personal level and a face-to-face, maybe establish some bonds, talk about business. And then we had a company-wide virtual, welcome, let them tell them about themselves. And then we went around and just kind of introduced ourselves a little bit. So I thought that was very cool. And then our staff chapel.
That's true.
And so that's really cool. We have a staff chapel once a month, 15 minutes. We've had 2 so far with, a charity that we support, the firm does, and also one of the CSSs who does a ministry where she sings, and she even had a song on there. So it's been a fun way to, kind of bring in a more serious nature to our personal value of faith. So.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, us bringing on new teams, culture felt pretty easy with the initial, group because we're not big yet, right? As we grow, we want to make sure that our core values are felt for eternity. How important, or how are we implementing ways for our core values to be seen, heard, and felt continuously now, so that as we grow, we don't lose them?
Yeah, I think that being intentional is what that's all about, right? So talking about it in the offices, talking about it at these different meetings, showing the different things that we're doing and how that relates back to our values. I think those are key, that you don't have to just have it on a piece of paper in front of you all the time. When you live it, you know it, and we're trying to live it to show those values are truly how we do business.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of along those same lines, being intentional, we have a culture calendar, and getting that out to everybody so that everybody sees that and kind of knows what's coming next month or next week. It helps a lot to be intentional of kind of developing that community around what we're doing and when we're doing it. So I think those are 2 areas that provide good value.
Mm.
Yeah, it's interesting. I recently read something, and it said that big firms, actually, if you go throughout the company, oftentimes everyone knows those core values because they're said continuously. They're thrown in front of them. And the smaller firms actually struggle, which I thought was interesting. I thought it would be the other way, but I think maybe scale is someone's job is to put that in front of you all the time. For us, it's all of our responsibilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a simple question that I think is important to touch on before we wrap things up is, why is culture so important to us?
I think culture helps you identify with your community. Helps. It's kind of like a rudder of directing the ship of where you're going. Your culture kind of says this is how we do things in a way it's just becomes second nature, like you were saying. Like, we put family first. We try to run things through a lens of, say, freedom. Our faith is felt, not just words, empty words. So, when we start to do those things, I think that's kind of where our culture, why it's important.
Yeah, I would agree. And we're not a firm for everybody, right? So it's another way for other people to see what our firm is about and be like, hey, I want to be part of that. We want to do what those guys are doing. And so there's, we're not going to be for everybody, but those that want this type of community, we live it.
What do you think the biggest threat to our culture is as we grow?
I think it's the same threat that is in families today. Time not being stretched too thin, not putting something as a high priority, right? If it's important to say my family is important, if I'm the dad of the family and my family is one of my top priorities, yet I don't put the time in for my family, that's going to have an impact. So if we're not being committed in fighting, distractions or reasons why we might cancel a culture event. Those could be threats to, we lose our consistency. We're expressing in some way that is maybe not important as we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
It takes incredible intentionality, in my opinion, to build culture and keep culture. And everyone has busy schedules. There's a lot of things going on. There's things going on in the world that impact, there's an election coming up. There's all kinds of things that can get in the way. And if you're not incredibly intentional and process oriented, I would say, it can get lost. But then at the same time, if you're too process oriented, you lose the real feel, right? It can't be a fake thing. It can't be something you're pretending to do. It really has to be felt and seen every day. Well, awesome. Well, I think that gives people a good idea of what we're doing from a culture standpoint, how you build that. I do feel like from a virtual standpoint, we're doing a very good job. Hopefully, as we get our feedback surveys back, the whole firm feels the same way. But I think they give some people something to go off of when building their own culture.
I hope we can also continue to be creative. I know we're almost done with this podcast, but thinking to like families, or even what we've done so far, when you start to be creative, you make something unique or special. It's something you cling to and you remember. And you're like, oh, that was really fun. I like that. Versus we just do this. I don't know why. It's not fun or it's boring, but like family traditions that you might do around the holidays. You can like, I look forward to that piece. Culturally, what do we look forward to at Cedarwood? So I think if we remain creative, that will help us also to be in the forefront and be an important part of our company.
Yeah, I think that's spot on.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to add?
Other than Dylan winning the golf tournament every year, we've got to change that up.
That's right.
One of those memories.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't there for that. I really didn't want to experience him winning. One of my best friends, but obviously I want to see him at the top on business. On the golf course, I want to see him at the bottom.
Okay. Virtual
good
bowling
stuff.
next time.
We'll do bowling. Figure out what he's bad at, and then let's
do that.
next year.
There you go.
Well, hopefully you got something out of this today. Thanks for visiting with us. If you have any more questions, feel free to call us, Cedarwood Financial Partners.